Video 4, and this is all about finishing off the structure. Now we've gained a bit of confidence, we can start to be a bit creative, and we can start to let the children go a little bit with their intuition. Using some of those offcuts, I'm getting brave and using a straight edge alongside with a more rough edge. I've speeded the video up here a little bit just because you'll be here all day watching me. There we go, I'm just pinching the rough edge, getting it ready to receive the other edge. You can see my fingers just going around there, just to make it thinner so we haven't got really thick parts and really thin parts. And again, just using my fingers and my intuition, making sure that every single part of that surface is in contact with the other surface. You can feel for air bubbles, you can feel it, it feels like blisters. And that's why we need to just slow down and let our fingers do the seeing and the feeling. Now again, I'm adding a rough edge and a smooth edge, this time a smooth edge to a rough edge. And you can see I'm beginning to coil it. I'm coiling inside and coiling outside. But I don't want really thick areas because it will start to weight the cylinder over. So you just have to check with your children. You know, the clay will do the talking. You can't plan this. It depends on what your offcuts you've got, but you just got to keep it straight, not too thick, and make sure that they're fixed really well. And now I'm making what you call stitches. So I've got tiny little sort of lengths of clay, and I'm just squeezing them across. So for the first time we're working vertically rather than horizontally. This is also quite a clever way of putting two layers together. It's also quite aesthetic, so we can make some marks, deliberate marks on those stitches. Just bearing in mind that this film is speeded up for your boredom, really, for your attention span. I'm patching now smaller, not so long pieces, square pieces. I'm just getting the feel for the pot itself, making sure it doesn't get too tall. I wouldn't go much taller than this with children. And if you can think about when you start off, if you start off with quite a small base, you're not going to be able to get too tall, so that the width of the base will determine how tall you become. So here I'm just patching on some of my the leftovers of my clay, using it all up, shaping it around, using the side of my ruler. Children love the sound of this. This would probably take me a good 2 hours to make. No, come back to it, go out for a break, wrap it up, come back to it, unwrap it, work on it. It's quite nice to do it in stages so that children come back to it with fresh eyes. They begin to see patterns and shapes in it. Give them time to reflect on it, give them time to edit it. I love these patches. Make a patch and then make a hole in it so you've got like negative spaces. This goes back to the mark making that we made in the first video. And again, it can act a little bit like a stitch. And there we have it. There's my finished cylinder. I don't need to do anything more to that. Just make sure that it goes straight up. We don't want to add anything like children would love to add handles. They love to add spouts. They love to add things coming off it. But really the idea is to keep it as true as we can to a cylinder with some very subtle shapes and marks and textures. And that's it. Nice and simple. Less is actually more.